Hi y'all, it's Croc here. In this video we're going to be discussing the properties of concrete powder, specifically in relation to cannoning and game ticks. So in my last video I said that concrete powder can pass through water. That's not entirely true. It has some interesting mechanics. It passes through water up until the point where the game calculates it in a game tick. So in this case, it traveled 26 blocks. That's 26 blocks with 48 power. However, you can see this block 0 there. However, if we reduce the power, it will travel about half as far. I measured and graphed out the relationship between the amount of power and the distance between instances where your concrete powder is calculated inside a game tick, and the relationship appears to be exponential, right? So the more power you add, the more efficient that power will be in um, raising the entity's blocks per game tick. That means that you could get around this problem by simply adding a lot of power to your cannons. Another really interesting property of concrete powder is that its behavior is different depending on whether or not there is a viable backboard before the next instance of where it's calculated inside a game tick. So if you look at this trial, because there isn't a backboard before the second time it's calculated, the concrete powder solidifies in the first available water block. And if you do something like this, where you allow the concrete powder to get to the second time it is calculated inside a game tick, the same thing happens. But if you do this and stop the concrete powder before it gets to that second game tick calculation, it goes all the way back and it solidifies against the backboard. It's important to note that the second spot is at 52Y because this concrete powder is traveling at 26 blocks a game tick. It will pass through any amount of water in your first game tick like chunk thing, but if there is water in the second game tick chunk, then it will immediately solidify in that. All of these findings are pretty much the same at any range. Because concrete powder is calculated basically the same way sand is, it's possible to stack horizontally using the same mechanic that stacking sand does. This, however, can be disrupted because unlike vertical sand stacking, stacking concrete powder horizontally is, well, horizontal, and it has gravity working at a perpendicular angle to it. So if you remember, when we were just firing individual concrete powder blocks, the concrete powder drooped. It lost 1 block of altitude by the time it got to that second position there, right? So stacking isn't going to work just because of some sort of game glitch or something. It's all going to like gunk up right there. So what you need to do is you need to make it so the sand doesn't lose a block of altitude for that through that entire game tick chunk, and you do that by actually taking power off the thing so it loses that altitude beforehand. There you can see that it's stacked pretty nicely in the second stretch. I think that horizontal stacking could be incredibly powerful if it was integrated into current anti-patch technology, because due to a game glitch, the concrete powder actually goes further than the place where it would usually stop. That place where the concrete powder is first calculated inside a game tick. It doesn't, or it didn't in that scenario, because I was a whole 9 power short. But if you look again here, when I do it again with my full power, it actually goes past the point where concrete powder is calculated inside a game tick. So in conclusion, concrete powder has some very unique properties that aren't available, um, that sand just doesn't have. I think that cannoning using concrete powder is completely possible, and it opens up a variety of new ways to cannon bases. I think that in the short term, um, if a server does opt to run 1.6 TNT physics, not having walls, but simply having large oceans of water with no walls in them may be an effective way to stop concrete powder. However, I'm confident that very soon there will be methods for getting around this, such as horizontal stacking and tunneling, or simply using very large amounts of power, sorry. This is the relationship between power and distance between um, instances where a concrete powder entity is calculated inside a game tick, and as you can see, it does go up quite fast. So horizontal stacking and then tunneling may not even be necessary um, to get around large oceans of water. However, it remains an interesting concept. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments section if you have any questions or if I got anything wrong, um, or if you have conducted similar experiments in 15.2. Love to hear from you.